Is this thing on? Yeah, perfect. Welcome to the Linked Legal. I am Tony Albrecht, and goodness gracious, this podcast, it's a year in the making. Maybe more accurately, I'd say a year in the launching. I'll save you all the gory details of why this this podcast has taken a year to get off the ground. But the short answer is, if you're familiar with Steven Pressfield's The War of Art, resistance has had its way with me on this one when it came to, I let myself get caught up in the details of who's it for, what are we talking about, some of the equipment stuff, who's going to be doing the editing, stuff I love talking about, how resistance messes with our minds and keeps us from showing up and shipping the work. Do as I say, not as I do, my friends. Not anymore, though. This podcast exists, and I'm seeing it as a way to help my friends in the legal corner of LinkedIn. Whether you are a lawyer, a vendor, or a law student, or somebody else in a law firm, whether that's a support or an internal marketer, after these 3 years developing, let's say, a certain set of skills about how to not just become more magnetic online, but help other people become more magnetic on LinkedIn, I've really been feeling the desire to help more people figure it out and improve those skills. So, I'm seeing this and what we're doing with Linked Legal, our content membership, as being a way to help you understand the platform better, develop the skills of content creation and personal branding, strengthen your network, and then on a broader scale, just wrap your mind around why this stuff matters. Because I believe it does. That the way the world is changing and the direction the economy is going, we need more people who are understanding how you show up in digital spaces and put your message and yourself really out there in a way that can attract and cut through the noise. It's hard to do, right? It's hard to show up. It's hard to be ignored. It's hard to be judged. And it's hard to keep doing that because that stuff's going to happen when we begin showing up. But the funny thing about LinkedIn is this idea I talk about routinely of we all learned it the wrong way. Just about all of us learned it as the place to stash that digital resume and then to announce when you get a new job or something good happens or you just want to share a company press release, right? And that was certainly the way I learned it. I think I joined LinkedIn for the first time in about 2008 during my second year in law school. And that was the way I thought about it through 12 years of practice. I said that's what the platform was for. It really wasn't a tool. It was more like a digital bulletin board. And I also definitely saw it as a way to get in trouble. That if I was going to post something, I had to be pretty damn sure that it couldn't come back to bite me. Right? That if I was going to post something, it was going to be, let's say, an update on something that happened in the law. That thing had to be smart. Like all the facts had to be right. The law had to be right. My reasoning had to be unassailable. And that mentality, I know I'm not alone in that. And that sort of mentality, it's tough to do much when that's how you're approaching a platform like LinkedIn, right? It's a place of fear, a place of insecurity. And really to go back to the War of Art, one of the huge shifts for me was going from thinking about LinkedIn as a hierarchical network, one where there's, like that ladder. And, you know, I talk about how I walked away from the law on the verge of making partners. So I was always either a law student or an associate attorney, so relatively low on that hierarchy. So there's always that thought in the back of my mind, why would anybody listen to me? Who am I to put anything out there? And that hierarchical thinking is really limiting. In my brand pyramid that I use with clients when we're trying to refine personal brand, we talk about your territory. And this is a callback to the War of Art, where I love this story Pressfield tells about the three-legged coyote in his neighborhood. So that, out in the wild, a three-legged coyote is at a serious disadvantage. But in Pressfield's neighborhood there in Southern California, all the trash cans belong to that coyote. It's his territory. It's his home. And you can come in to his territory, but just know you're on his home turf. And on his home turf, where he understands the space, he's familiar with it, he knows all those houses. He knows all those trash cans. Just know that three-legged coyote, he knows what he's about. He knows the territory, and he's going to be hard to beat. And what happens when you start thinking about LinkedIn that way? If you start thinking about it less like a hierarchy, where you're worried about who's above you, who's next to you on that ladder, who's below you, and you start thinking about it more as a territory where you're just exploring. In my brand pyramid, I describe your territory as being the combination of your content pillars, those topics you talk about, and your point of view. Your point of view being the spaces in between those content pillars that show who you are, where you're from, what you do when you're not working, just what the world looks like from your corner of the universe. And when you start thinking about it that way, a few things happen. It gets a lot easier to produce content because you're coming from your perspective. When I'm thinking about sharing from my territory, then I'm not thinking about what am I going to post that will impress this person, or this person. No, we're starting from our perspective. We're starting from here's where my flag is, which makes it easier to see opportunities to make stuff. I will say that the stuff we make will also be better because we're not coming at it again from that external locus of control of saying, what can I make that somebody else might care about or that I feel like somebody else wants to hear from me? And what am I interested in sharing? And that stuff's always going to be better. And I think it's going to be more personal, which again is better. Does that make sense? I think it's that a third byproduct of this shift is it's just easier to sustain over time because it's you're less needing to hunt for ideas, and you could just collect. You could just collect what you're seeing out there because the ideas will come as you start to think more and more about this as a territory where it's what are you interested in talking about? And some of that is kind of what you do or what your life looks like as that professional, but it can go way beyond that to kind of how you keep yourself busy and out of trouble, what motivates you. Is it your family, desire to travel? There are 100 different reasons that we do the things we do. So yeah, that's something I was thinking about. Just that mindset shift from thinking hierarchically to thinking territorially. The more you can think about finding your territory on LinkedIn, the better off you're going to be. Because then also it makes it easier to connect with other people who are interested in that same stuff, right, who are interested in covering the same ground you're interested in. Ultimately, having a better understanding of your territory helps you with understanding your corner of the internet, the pinnacle of my brand pyramid. Just understanding that piece of digital real estate you're out to claim and own. I think ultimately that's what this podcast, the ground we're going to cover, I'm really looking forward to what we're going to be doing here, where I'm going to be dumping podcasts I do with other folks. Here I'm going to be sharing some of the sessions from the Linked Lawyer group coaching calls, whether that's with lawyers or vendors. And then we're just going to be diving into some things, topical things. I'll be having some conversations with people in the space I appreciate. And my hope is that this is a way to help you strengthen your network, develop your skills, and just get a better understanding of all the stuff we're talking about. Help you be more effective at leveraging LinkedIn to accomplish your goals, whatever those may be. Whether it's bringing in new cases for your firm or landing new clients for your company, creating new opportunities, right? New collaborations, finding new roles, all sorts of good stuff you can do out here. But only once we start digging in and getting more active. You know my strategy, right? No, why would I assume you know that? Be consistent, be generous, be genuine. Can we be more consistent? Can we be more generous? And can we be more genuine in how we show up on LinkedIn? Again, those are things that that mindset shift from the hierarchical to the territorial helps with. It's hard to be consistent, generous, or genuine if we're constantly afraid of what that person above us might think or what that person out there might think of us. Right? But those are the things we need to do to start to build a stronger network and start to show up as ourselves in a way that we get more magnetic. Right? Ultimately, with this goal of building this magnetic online presence that helps create opportunities and move needles for our businesses, our careers, and our lives. Enough out of me for one day? I think so. I wanted to keep this one fairly short. We're going to have plenty more to come. If you want to check out the Linked Lawyer membership, I've got the links in the show notes here. And beyond that, I'll see y'all out there in the digital arena, as it were. Thanks for listening.